Welcome, guys, to the SBN Network podcast. I'm your host, Steph, and with me is...
I'm Scott.
Yes.
And I'm Scott. We know how to do intros now.
This is a podcast where we take some deep dives into some wonderful artists and kind of look at their account in a different way, which is always a little bit positive, a little awesome, and you guys can enjoy their accounts with us.
And now that we've gotten more professional, I try not to say any dumb stuff.
And I try to at least always end on a good note.
Oh, there it is.
That is a cup and a half.
Isn't it? Look at that. Pinkie Pie.
Oh,
It's My Little Pony mug. Tom, welcome to our party. You are now officially on the SBN Network podcast.
Thanks for inviting me to the party.
Absolutely. Seriously, thank you for being on here. I've been a fan of your work for a very long time, and we discussed a little bit beforehand. We've never really had a lot of personal interaction on Instagram, Steph or I. And so I was really excited to kind of chat through with you and, get to know you a little bit and let some other people get to know you, because you really do have a real, you have an aesthetic that is truly yours. You stand out big time, obviously, which we will get more into, but even just your aspect ratio alone is enough to make people stop and go, wait, what? Huh? So you, I love, like, I always joke about, like, not letting Instagram determine the aspect ratio of your photos, and I talk about that on the podcast. And you are the absolute pinnacle of not allowing Instagram to tell you how to crop and shape your photos. You have gone so extreme, and it's awesome. So I think it's just going to be really fun to go through your work, chat through it, and just chat through your process and why you do all this and yada 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 yada. So hi.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And yeah, I've definitely made the best style choices, haven't I, for Instagram?
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Nailed it on that one.
I love it. I love it. It's got it just makes me so happy to see it. I love rejecting the square. I love anybody who rejects the square, and you're just like, well, I'm gonna make it 3 squares just to make it even more crazy. Yeah. Like it's awesome. It really is awesome. Your work is really fantastic. I wanted to start with I have not really heard you on other podcasts. I know you've been on other podcasts. I know you've been on, like, the toyphotographers.com podcast and stuff like that. Were you a photographer before you did toy photography, or something in that nature? Were you part of design, art, etc.?
Yeah. So a bit of everything there. So a bit of background. So I went to university and studied as a fine artist.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of there was a lot of painting, but I actually did a lot of stop motion animation and things of that nature while I was doing that. So while I was at university, I very much learned that I like to have lots of things I do. And what I find is, obviously, one thing feeds another. You get stuck with one medium that you're working in, or one project you're working on, you bounce to another one, and then you'll get the ideas for that one that you're stuck on, and you bounce backwards and forwards. So it kind of got very much there. And with that stop animation things, it was very toy centric, actually, which is a bit kind of like I was both, I feel, ahead of the time and then behind the curve when I left university, and then just stopped doing it. I'm like, oh, damn it, I could have been so much further ahead where I want to be. But yeah, so I was taking things like games like, I don't know, chess, Connect 4, different things like that, and I was filming them in a stop animation kind of way, and then trying to re-replicate them digitally, building installations so that they were massive on the wall or whatever. And I actually did do some stop animation of some of my Lego minifigs from when I was probably about 6 or 7. Because a lot of the Lego that I do photograph, obviously the new branded stuff, less so, but when you get to the spacemen that I photographed,
Yes. You
they're
love the
when I was
spacemen.
about 5.
Yeah.
They are the original ones. Like my
That's
I've got 2
awesome.
younger brothers, and my mum was like, no, they don't get to play with your Lego. Your Lego is your Lego, and that's the thing that you grew up. Like, that's yours. It goes in the loft, and when you want it back, and you choose what you want to do with it, it's so yeah. So that's still now, and that's come back round. So, I did a bit of work, I think, through doing a bit of product photography.
Yeah.
And I think then the product photography kind of then rolled in at a later age, and the toys came back out, and kind of I guess I was seeing bits and pieces around. You know, obviously we've all seen, say, Vessa's work, for example, and that kind of swings you back into things, and yeah, just kind of, well, that's kind of what I do. And I think I was on a skiing holiday with my friend. We'd obviously skied all week, drank all week. We needed a break. I think, you know, that was about February. We'd not seen each other since Christmas. So I gave him his Christmas present, which was a Star Wars microfighter. And we had that. He had the little snowtrooper in his pocket, and that was it. We just started photographing up on a mountain, and like, no, I like this. I'm going to do more of this. And it's just,
so it began.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love the fact that you said you're one of those artists who kind of has to jump in and out of things. Like you have to have multiple things going. It's really interesting because I know both types of artists, being in living in a lot of my life in the art world, and they're the ones who are hyper focused, which, to be honest, I think I tend to gravitate a little bit more towards the hyper focus. And then you have the ones who, like you, like need to have a few different things, and then those different projects will inspire the other project. It's my wife is much more like that. My wife has like 20,000 things happening at the same time. Even when it comes to like her job and her life and her art and her creation, everything is multi-layered. I tend to be much more like, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm following this. If I need to change course, I just change course, and I don't really address that anymore. And I think has been really fun with the style of and analyzing people's styles, as it's kind of forced me to sometimes do a few different things, be thinking about a few different things at the same time. And it can be really nice. It keeps your brain like really like stretching it and exercising it and keeping that muscle going, like a weightlifter of artistry. So that's really cool. I like that you're kind of one of those people who's just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go back to this now. Okay, wait, no, I'm gonna come back to this. Wait, I had this thing going over here. I'm gonna do that for a little bit. Like I love that.
From a kind of I suppose from a showing things, and like, you know, if you're thinking about your Instagram feed is how you usually show this kind of stuff. I do quite like the idea that I'm keeping people on their toes. It's probably horrific for the algorithm, and again, I'm just projecting how it actually works. But I do like that, you know, I've always consciously thought, okay, well, I haven't shared a painting in a while, or I need to get a painting up, or, you know, I've not done hand drawing in a while. I need to get back to that, and I need to start showing that again. I'm very keen, like, you know, I obviously, with my toy photography, there's Lego, there's action figures, there's model kits, and again, I try to keep that kind of rotating and keep a new thing coming out, because like, yeah, I don't know, like there's lots of repetition in my work and lots of themes, but there's lots of themes, and I don't want to leave one behind too much. You know, and also, it can get very Star Warsy very quickly if I don't.
Look at my whole page. That's all it is. I try, I really do sometimes. And then it just goes right back to, like, again, that streamlined, like I can't think outside of like my path. So I'm envious of you that you're able to kind of bounce between things very well. Oh man, I was going to ask something about that, and now I forgot what it was. It couldn't have been that important. So
it'll come back.
It'll come back at some point. Something's going to remind me as we're like going through your slideshow or something, and I'm going to go like, oh yeah, that was the thing I was going to ask. All right, that makes a lot of sense. Do you like shooting? You seem to like shooting outside, but you also, I've seen you do smaller sets inside. Do you have a preference one way or the other?
No. I think I think there's a variety of things, and again, if I bring it back to that going back to university bit, right back at the beginning, kind of the thing I learned was you shouldn't, if you have an idea, a creative idea, how does that creative idea then manifest itself?
Mhm.
And if I claim I'm a this type of a person, or I'm a this type of an artist, or a this type of photographer, can that idea ever truly be what it needs to be, or is it skewed directly by what I do? So again, it comes back to the fine artist in me,
Mhm.
but it's more about what does this idea need, and sometimes it's, and obviously we're going to talk about discovery and exploration later, but sometimes it is about just going out and finding spaces and places, and then other times it's very much I've got ideas, I've got experiments that I want to do, and obviously experimenting things indoors in a more controlled environment
Yeah.
that allows it. So, I'm thinking like light painting and stuff like that. It's very much easier to do indoors. And then eventually, if I can figure out how to do it, I can potentially take it outdoors. But yeah, very, very much like one or the other. Not really, I'm really enjoying being out in the world taking grand vistas at the moment. So
Yeah.
that kind of needs more to be outside.
Yeah.
I've not quite figured out how to quite get volume level quality on
that's
my
tough.
digiramas yet, but
You shoot, you pull back a lot sometimes.
Yeah.
Not always, but you are not afraid to get some distance between you and the figure, and that can be very, very tricky depending on where you are. I don't. That's something that I must say does make you stand out a bit. Like there are some photographers who do it, but you do not shy away from, sometimes you pull so far back that it's like you actually have to like kind of get in there close to kind of see who the character is.
Yeah.
And that is daring. That's daring with a full-size human. Like, so doing it with like a mini human, like that's really impressive. And I really, that was something I wanted to do when I was trying to shoot your style. I really wanted to do that because I do like big open spaces. I love being outside. I love being out in the woods. I like being, far away from civilization as often as I can. And so, I'm sure some of these photos, again, they'll show up when we start going through and we can talk more specifically about them. But I know you have one that, I even considered kind of doing a version of it, and then I backed off. But the Fellowship of the Ring crew going through, that image, and if it doesn't show up in the slideshow, Steph, no big deal. But
I was thinking it's not in there.
that's fine. But go look at it. Anybody who's listening to this, go look at that photo, because it is really, perspective and everything. It's gorgeous. And it's like, again, you really used your environment. You really saw it for what it was and said, oh yeah, I'm going to make this. I'm going to own it. So that's pretty cool.
So lots of people have seen that picture. So obviously for the story behind it, obviously it was the picture I entered for Flickr's Lego competition, which obviously that won me that competition. I was one of the first place people. So there's a lot of Marilyn Monroe portraits downstairs, which took a long time to build with all those little dots. But so obviously a lot of people have seen it, but it was, and obviously the benefit is the Lord of the Rings Fellowship can just kind of sit in a little Ziploc bag in my bag, and they go anywhere with me and everywhere with me, because when you are out in the big wide world, it's very easy to just get, and they're going to fit in anywhere and everywhere. And that was about 2/3 up Mount Snowdon in the UK, which is I think it's about, I'm probably gonna get this very wrong, but about 11 to 1200 meters tall. So we're on the big mountain looking out over the valleys behind, and it was just kind of like, and we'll get into, I'm sure we'll talk about my camera setup as well, up in the pictures and why things are wide crop. But I carried it all up, and then it was just like bang, down we go. What can we do with that? But it's that really exciting challenge of how do you get something this big to
Uh-huh.
be in focus reasonably with all the stuff that's this big? So yeah, that was certainly a challenge, but I think it just comes back to the inspiration is cinematography.
Yeah.
And when
Uh-huh.
people ask me about kind of who inspires you and things and that kind of stuff, and it's very much, probably the first name I say is Deakins. It's not photography, it's cinematography, and what
Yeah.
does that kind of, and that's where my brain kind of goes. And I think that's where you're saying there, with it, Scott, we're like, am I close up or am I far away? And the thing I think doing is like, we all start quite close up with these toys. And
Yeah.
it was like, well, actually, if I watch a film, you've got those two different aspects, and I want to try and fill in all of the aspects. So it's probably something that's driven over the last year or so with my work. But yeah, just it's an exciting technical challenge. How do you figure out, how does it work? Why does it? What can I do?
Yeah.
All part of the deal and all part of the fun, I guess.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is.
All right. You guys ready?
I'm ready. Open this.
If I get to go.
I love it. I love this. I love how we went from early on. First question. I know Steph usually asks this. Is this actually your first photo, or is it like just the first thing you posted? Like, what is the story of this one?
So yeah, won't be the exact first photo, but it's probably the first one I posted. Or I think in a very early stage, I did a clear out of Instagram and started again.
Uh-huh.
Basically once I actually learned how hashtagging worked.
Yeah.
Thought, well, I've got all this
still don't
content
understand
that no one's ever seen. Let's do this properly. So I think I went with this one. So I would say, yeah, right at the beginning, it was much more, like you can see, it's very clean cut, very tidy, very well lit, thinking about product photography and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And probably there was more humor in my early work and kind of the ideas I had. So obviously, yeah, riffing off of the shot in the trailer for Guardians where he gives him the finger and it blurs out. But obviously I wanted to do the thing, so I just got the typical shatterproof ruler and kind of stuck it behind to kind of.
It's funny you say that there was more humor in your early work, because I would say, as far as like photographers that I follow and whatnot, you don't push a lot of humor out there. You really what your feed has become now. Again, like you said, maybe early on you were more focused on that, but like the seriousness, honestly, of your page is very interesting. You don't even do like the kind of like even cheap laughs or just like something like a silly crossover and stuff. You don't really do that. Your work has a serious tone to it, from top to bottom, which is, I love that. So the reason I love that is because there are a lot of really great humorous toy photographers out there. This is like, we've had them on here who do really great, like wonderfully like funny things. But I think sometimes when people get a chance to see your work, maybe people who are not in the toy photography community, seeing the seriousness of the photos that you post, like, I think it really gives people who don't know about it the opportunity to see like what is possible with a toy. Like, you look at this photo on the right, and I mean, come on, like, I mean, look at, like, anybody looking at this is going to be somewhat baffled by it, or should be baffled by it. If they're not, then they're missing the point. But it's interesting because I know the humor and the lighthearted stuff tends to get the most attention outside of the toy photography world. Funny crossovers, humorous moments, the things that make you laugh, the exciting, the explosions, the this and that. But your photography is about subtlety, and just like perfection. And I think there's something really interesting about that. and the way that your page reads as you go through it. Something else that I think is really fascinating is I used to have this conversation with a very, very, very good friend, still very, very good friend, who is a street photographer.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation about panoramic photography once,
Mhm.
or any sort of wider view. The thing that I notice about your page a lot, and I think it's amazing, is we talk about the difference between a photograph that is shot to be panoramic versus a photograph that was an afterthought.
Mhm.
You use the frame from left to right entirely, and it's meaningful. What is it, like 2.39 to 1 or something like that? Is that around what you shoot?
Something like that. So I can give a difference, and what I would say is that it's not panoramic.
It's anamorphic.
It's genuine anamorphic, and I think this is probably the moment now to pull up how does this happen, and why. It's a big reason why I am where I am to where I was. So
yes,
the picture on the left is shot on a Sony RX100. It's like it's a very good, but it's a point and click camera, and it's what I got way back when. The one on the left is that. The one on the right is now I've upgraded myself to Sony Alpha 7 mirrorless. I've not gone to the crazy stuff. I've got the original model. Onto that body, I fix a 100mm macro lens, manual lens. Onto that lens, I then fix an old school 2x anamorphic projector lens. So I'm actually shooting through two lenses.
Yeah, and then you decompress it later.
And exactly, right? And it does exactly the old school CinemaScope style, which is taking the wide angle shot, turning it into a 4x3. So obviously, all of my figures, if they're normally kind of, go this way. So if they're normally about that wide on the actual picture, they're about that wide on the back of the camera. So everything's being squished on the back of the camera, and then obviously now photoshopping it. So I'm compressing back down afterwards. So lots of people kind of asking like, what are you cropping off? And like, don't crop anything. I used to crop. Like, there's a point in the middle where you can probably start to figure out where I was cropping and where I'm not. But this now is literally what I'm getting out of the camera, and then I'm just recompressing or uncompressing, however it looks. And that, like saying, Scott, that's very much why it looks and feels the way it does. Because I think probably I got into that because I like anamorphic lens flares. How can I do that? I did some, I'm scratching CD cases, sticking that in front. All the old school bit of wire, anything you can do to fake those things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you do it for real? What can you do? And then obviously you realize that a lens for anamorphic is like, a house deposit. So, right, we're not going to go down that route. What's the alternative? And then you find these guys who are just doing, like dual lens build cameras. Lots of people say, when they see pictures of my camera, because obviously it looks like I've got, I don't know, a 1:400 lens on the front of it, and everyone in the world's like, can you photograph that thing miles over there? And I'm like, no. I can photograph this thing, this 6 inches,
and that's it. That's all you're getting.
But it looks like, because I even have to put a bracket on there to take all the weight, and a shoe. So it's like, it all looks like it's a long range camera, and it's like, no, it's just, but I've just bolted it all together.
It's interesting as shooting anamorphic. I wonder, and again, you could probably speak to this better. I wonder if that's why your geometry and your framing is so precise, because when you're looking through that lens, you can't look at it necessarily as a real scene. You can't look at, like, you're looking at it more of like, so I would compare it to like as a 4x5 shooter shooting 4x5 film. When you're looking through the ground glass, everything is upside down and backward and reversed. So you have to really think a lot about like where points are in your image, because you're not looking at it the way your eye looks at it. You're not seeing the scene the way your eye sees it. So like when you're looking through, you're seeing the scene, but you're seeing everything just like you're seeing these little like hills and stuff, and they're just like
Yeah.
everything is just contained. So you're thinking about spacing, you're thinking about some of the math more and less just like, okay, look away from the camera, look back in, look away. It's like you got to really hone in on
Yeah.
the balance, and but it shows like, and again, like I said, there's that difference between somebody who just takes a scene and then makes it a panoramic image versus a scene that is built out of that aspect ratio, where it's like there is purpose behind it. It is intentional. Even your negative space is intentional. If there's dark area in a photograph, you can see the amount of it is there for a reason. The volume of that black space is there for a reason. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Thanks, man.
Do you?
Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I was gonna ask if you take it, but without the figure there first to kind of get your groundwork because of the way you shoot.
So no, what I actually do, and bluntly honest, is because of the nature of the lens structure. Because I say I've got the two. So what I was going to say in kind of retort to what Scott was saying there, and this flows into what you're asking, Steph, is it slows you right down. I have to manually focus with two lenses, which has to slow you right down. So it does make you so much more thoughtful about what you're doing. I would akin it to maybe like it's almost like landscape photography in the sense I think I know what I want, and then I'm just going to sit and I'm going to wait and I'm going to wait. And it's not quite the same, but it's a similar vibe. It's going to be a much slower, longer process. So, if I go out, I'm lucky if I get, 4 or 5 different types of shots for a whole day's walking and a whole day's photography. Now, I'm not saying all those 5 shots come out well, but like 5 setups is about as good as I'm going to get. Where when you think about it, old school with the way I was doing it, point and click, you can bang a figure down, you can take a load of shots of that, different angles, different things. It's a very different way of working. I am quite methodical, so it's naturally where I've ended up. So yeah, I think there's that side of it. And I think then, so to your point, Steph, like what do I do and how do I do it? Because it's so particular, I have to use a lot of diopters on the front of the lenses if I want to get in close. And because my focus distance is so particular with these 2 lenses stuck together, I actually carry a tape measure and a little crib sheet with me, which tells me if I want to take it with this diopter, I need to be this far away. And if I want to be taking it with this diopter, and I literally have certain things that I can do. I can't just drop a figure down and zoom in and out because I have 2 fixed lenses. I have to put the figure where I think I want it in the landscape and reverse engineer and then try and get the camera the right distance away. And again, when my camera is about, like as wide as this screen is, that is an absolute nightmare. But it's reversed. So actually the figure goes down first generally. With as many wires hidden in them to hold them upright because the wind will just blow them over while I'm doing my other thing. And then I reverse engineer it back. So I actually carry a little pocket tape measure with me that I can then measure back and go, right, mark the floor. This is where the camera can go. What can I work from there? So it's the choices I've made and the style that I found myself leaning to dictate the process. But very much about process. I mean, I like process. It might not come through in the work in essence, but it's the way I do it. A lot of we go to the internal work that I do. Again, I might be photographing, taking the card out, sticking it in the camera. Right, that doesn't work. What can I change? And I like to build my pictures. That's the only way I could describe it. I might take loads and go, no, got that bit wrong. I would be terrible with film because I just cannot do it the first time out. It's got to be a process and a build, and then obviously you're desperately trying to get that right before sunset hits and golden hour comes and goes.
I love how much you love the process and I love how. All right, how do I want to say this? I love how much you love the process, and I love how little you let the process interfere with the end result. I think that's what I wanted to say. It is there is you have when you look at your photos. I've always been absolutely baffled, but like just enamored with photographers who are able to make a photograph look simple, but there is so much more to it, and there's so much that people don't even realize. Like I think that's what is so stunning about some of like all of your images, but it like some specific ones is like they seem like it's just it's a photograph, but like there's so much there. There's so much there, and you can see how much is built, how much you've built there, and how intentional everything is. There are no mistakes, and I think that is really cool. Like I have like the Bob Ross like happy accidents and stuff like that. You don't have happy accidents. Like it's like, okay, this is it. I've built this scene. Not that you don't have a happy accident once in a while, but like you built this from the top to the bottom, and this is it. Here's your end result.
What I would say to that is the happy accidents 100% happen because everything's an experiment, isn't it? And everything's play, and you learn things as you go, and then you try new things, and things happen, and you get these moments. I would probably say what I would say for you guys as viewers to my work, that would happen off camera. Like I wouldn't probably show that material, and what I would probably do is refine it. If
take it as a learning experience and then build on it.
Yeah, if my mum was to watch this, she would remember me as a child doing drawings and crying because it didn't turn out perfectly. Because I've worked it in the wrong way, and therefore this little bit in the corner is squished, and I cannot then not see that bit. So a lot of that stuff completely happens, but by the time it kind of goes out in the world, it's very different. And a lot of my photos, so the past one, the last one you've just shown, Steph, which is obviously the one I put up this morning for me, I took that photo months ago. Like I let photos sit on my computer and I go back to them, and some things are like, no, that's going out. I'm in love with this thing and I've got to show the world. But lots of things actually, and the most I do is lots of things sit and wait, and there's that moment of pause. And I guess that's just the methodical bit again, that you just work in the process, and it's not necessarily the process as in producing the photo. It's the process of the photo coming to life and being what it is. Does it work? Do I need to go back and tweak that post, or does it need to be reshot? Sometimes you come back to go, oh my god, I didn't even see that the first time round. That was a mess. What was I thinking there? This photo as an example, I cannot tell you how many versions of this photo exist. So I don't know whether you guys are aware of it or not. He's actually spinning. So there is a stick coming. So I've grown some moss in a little pot. So it's like in a takeaway, Chinese takeaway Tupperware pot.
Yep.
Grow some moss in that. So obviously you can't see the pot underneath. I've then drilled a hole through the plastic in the bottom. He's then got a post coming up stuck into the back of his leg, which I can then spin from underneath. So he's actually doing spin jitsu on the photo. So like that
doing me, real motion.
How do I really make it happen? I love special effects. How do I really make it? So obviously, and then when you get things that start moving, like there's probably at least 100 of these minimum, and I'm just going rubbish, maybe rubbish, and you just have to work them down to literally to one. But
keep weeding them out until you get to the one that actually feels right.
But again, it's just part of the process. Here's an idea. How can I make it? How can I make it work? And that stuff excites me. How can I make that happen? But yeah, he's genuinely moving.
I love it.
So cool.
I love the color here and the light off of the vines. Like, it's absolutely phenomenal. Like, real specific, but that vine, I guess it would be the farthest over to this side, this way. You caught that rim lighting on there. It looks so, it's so precise and so gorgeous, and you just all these little curls, and nothing is really interfering with the figure. Again, something that would be super easy to have happen. It's just God, it's so well balanced. I love that. I really do. I love that about your images, and I love your process and the way that you create this. Every corner means something. There's no corner left behind. It's really cool.
It's a really good thing that I found of obviously the more I looked into cinematography and structure and how do you frame pictures and how do things work, because we are so programmed to read this stuff. Like, we don't even know it, and all of our lives we are just bombarded now with so much cinema, television, everything, that we understand how to read it. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? If you can reverse engineer that, and you can get it. So I think it was just like a beginner's guide to cinematography, and you just pull them apart and you understand this type of shot for this and that type of shot for that. I really like this kind of thing where I tend to go to, it's very easy. You go to the rule of thirds, and then you just push it a little bit more. And I like to push it a little bit more, like here. So he's probably a little too far to the right, but actually, because it's such a wide image, that just accentuates the wide image. And like you were saying, I really like the negative space as well, because the negative space allows things to breathe and that kind of thing. So and this just, again, it was an early one, but it was a kind of a happy accident type stuff. It was combining everything together. So obviously it's a digital backdrop. It's plastic pretend vines from an IKEA special.
That's cool.
There's real, obviously, moss which he's standing on, and it's grown. And then obviously, as I say, the mechanism that I built for him to be able to spin, and then a desperate plea to try and Photoshop out any of that kind of structure that's making him spin to make it look like
it's not there.
It's not there, exactly. So it's kind of like there's a lot of components going on in this one.
The
red against the green just pops, doesn't it? Like you say,
it really does. It really does. And I love the fact that even the black of his outfit still pops. Like, you were able to get that out there, because it goes up against the green so perfectly. It's cool. That's really cool. Well, I love your process. I love how you think through all of this. It's it just gets me so excited.
I think this is an older one too.
Again, look at how you, like, oh my gosh, look at like where you were and like what you've kind of evolved into. This goes to show what you said at the beginning, how you're the kind of person who is working on a lot of different things at the same time. You can see how your brain works here, because this was what you were doing, but like then you moved over into another thing, and then you took elements of this thing and like brought it back to here, and you said like, okay, well, I like this part of what I did, but let's take this and move it to this space. And it's like you just keep playing like chess with yourself until you end up in the space where you want it to be, at least for that time, and then you'll change it all over again, but again, the humor, the lightness, no grand vista, no, definitely not even the same perspective, no, a different aspect ratio. Like, it just goes to show you, like, how important it is to try things and evolve and change and grow.
Yeah, exactly. It's the journey we all go on as creatives, isn't it? Like, it's a never-ending journey. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. It's like there'll always be something new, and there's always something exciting to try. So it's not that now I don't like what I did before. It's just in a different space at the moment, doing a different thing. And come back to me in a few years' time, and I'll be in a different space again, I'm sure, doing different things. We all do that. So
what you just said is super freaking important for any artist. Is never get to a place where you are questioning the decisions that you made in your art beforehand. It's not not worth dwelling on that at all, or even like letting that be a spark in your mind. Like, you made choices, you did things, and I fell into that trap when I was younger, like younger. I had a tendency to do that. Like, I would be done with something and I never wanted to look at it again. And I've gotten to a space now, finally, grown as a human, grown as an artist, I guess, where I can recognize that everything that I did up to this point has a purpose, and I see the value in what I created 15, 20 years ago. It's not bad. It's not silly. It's not like, it's just different. It was my process. It's what I was learning at that time. I think a lot of artists, and probably because it was a lot of artists that I liked, have that mentality of like, oh, this is trash now, I've grown, do something better. But it's not the best way to grow. You can't get stuck in that.
I suppose for me, it's like, it goes back to that comment, like the conversation we were having at the beginning about kind of when I was saying about like having different things on the boil. But like, having different things on the boil can also be, you can go back to other things, and it's very easy as a creative to be like, we all know the best thing you're going to make is the next thing you're going to make, because that's the thing that excites you. The thing that you've made is done, is moved on from. Is the next thing you're making that's going to excite you. But you're never going to get to that next thing if you haven't done the previous things. And the journey there is so important. I remember my tutor for my master's degree. So in my master's degree, I'd suffered some personal loss at the time, and it was probably my effort in therapy that I actually did a lot of painting and things. And I kind of came out at the end of it and naively said to my tutor at the end, he said, you found where you need to be. And I'm like, yeah, but it took me 3 years and I'm basically making the same paintings as when I walked in. And he went, it's not about the fact you're making the same paintings. You could have done it in 6 months. You've gone on the journey you've gone on in 3 years. And that's what tells this story. And that's why you've got to this place. It's not about how quickly you can do it or how fast you can move forward. It's your personal journey. And that's something that's just stuck with me, is that it wouldn't have worked. It worked the way it worked, and it got me to the place I got. I'm the only person on this journey. I'm the only person who can do this stuff. So it's like, I look at this stuff now and I go, no, I wouldn't make it again. I wouldn't be making photographs this way.
No.
But I can tell you that came out of, clean white backgrounds. I was a product photographer. That's what I knew. That's what I could work with. And obviously the different things have come in along the way. And there could be certain aspects where I could do this now, but I'd probably put it in a grand vista maybe, or in location, and, or I'd probably hide it all in shadow to get the key points out I want. But it's the journey that you're on and what you're doing, and, structuring this. There's a lot of things I've wired out and photoed out because he literally can't hold that car above his head. As strong as the Hulk may think he is, we know he is the strongest Avenger, but
absolutely
he can't that way.
No, that exploration and discovery right there. I mean, you just, like, when you said that about how it took you 3 years or whatever to get to that space, there's something really important about you are the only one on this journey. And just because somebody is able to do their artistic, creative, personal, whatever journey in 6 months doesn't mean that yours should be 6 months. Like, that's not how it works. That's not it. You can't even expect that. Like,
exactly. It could look similar, but it's not the same thing.
No.
It's the old adage as well. I do a lot of, like, my paintings at university were very single color fields, that kind of thing. And obviously when you do abstract expressionism, one thing you will get is, but a 3-year-old could do that. So no, a 3-year-old couldn't do that. A 3-year-old could maybe make something that looks the same, but again, they can't go on the thought process and the journey that I've been on to create this thing. And that's just it's an art thing. And as I say, I think if you're, I would just say be self-aware. It's the biggest thing be as self-aware as possible. And,
yes,
it's all the journey to move you to the next step. And we'll all be journeying, I think, as creatives, I guess, till the days we die, because
I think that is
drives us, right?
Yeah, no, it doesn't end unless you choose to make it end. I think that's the nature of being creative. Like you said, your best project is always the next thing you're working on, and that's just. But again, the moment you become complacent, does any of it really matter anymore at that point? Like, you know what I mean? Like, should you ever get to that point? That's not like that's not an enjoyable space to be, like, to reach the pinnacle. Like, okay, because now then there's nothing else. So it's like I think of it like with I'm like, if I'm doing a hiking trip or like a backpacking thing or whatever, like I think about how the down is like the sadder part like sometimes, and so I need to look for different things. I need to explore, like I need to look for more. So I'm still, even though I've gotten past the peak, I'm still trying to find something else on the way down, because that nobody wants that part. Like that's no fun. So I think when you get to that point where you're just like, okay, yeah, I've reached it, I'm the best I'm ever going to be, it's like, well, that's disappointing. That seems real sad. So
do you think you'll ever shoot vertically again?
Right now, with what I do, I can't see it anytime soon. But again, I think it would be completely wrong of me to go, no, definitely not. The deep conversation we've just had about how we could,
absolutely not. I will never
that would
change.
be the completely wrong attitude to have. So currently, no, I couldn't see it. But I don't know where my brain is going to take me on what journey. I do love how innocuous this picture is and how deep that conversation got. I love that juxtaposition there. How we got to that point.
But again, that's thinking, that's thought, that's process, that's creativity. It's I wish you just said no, absolutely not. I'll never change. I'll never change.
I would have completely understood all the points I made for that.
I would have been like, and that's the end of the podcast, everyone. All right, well, there we go. I hope you all learned your lesson. Goodbye.
Okay, you're at a.
I love it. I love. What were you using here? What were you shooting with at this point?
That's anamorphic.
That is anamorphic.
So again, trying to get this is where, like, everyone's like, oh, JJ made Star Trek. So it's like stuck lens flares everywhere and stuff. Like, I was in my element at that point. I'm like, add more in. This is great. I love how, like, why is the light doing what it's doing? What's going on? And obviously, I guess this would be, to go back to a previous comment, Scott, this would be where you were saying, like, about humor, and obviously, oh, humor's gone. Like, this is where my brain goes with humor now. It's like, oh, actually, no. Han calls him Goldenrod. Okay, right, cool. What can I do with that? And like, I wanted a kind of sunset picture, and I've got areas where I live. Obviously, from the UK, it's very green. We've got lots of kind of things. So I put him in some flowers, put him in some light. We get buttercups that grow, and obviously it's not a true goldenrod, but like, I'm gonna play the words, I'm gonna go with it. But obviously he's a great figure for the light bouncing and all that kind of stuff. So this is
softer humor. It's a not an aggressive humor, it's more of a, like, it's a calmer, softer humor, and I love that. It's just
and it goes with one of the general rules of thumb for me, is if I'm not quite sure, shoot into the light, because the camera's going to do something cool with the light. And that's, I don't know whether that's just that it's not what most people do. Most people want to hide the fact that the glass is doing things with the light, and some people are obviously very keen at lens flare, like landscape photography. They're like, no, you have to cover this and make sure there's no lens flares and blah blah.
Oh my god,
no, give me more. I want more.
It's so funny because I got into all this with my like my dad and I. It's so funny because like we feel very similarly about a lot of aspects of photography, but he's who I started learning photography from when I was young, and then continued to do my own thing. But oh my god, the debates, because he is true like landscape scene. I mean, classic. He loves the old school, the classics, this and that. And I started doing like band and portrait photography and stuff like that, and like and trying to get like, singer songwriters and stuff like that. Lens flare was great. I mean, I would do it like, I try to get the nastiest, most like smeary lens flare ever, and he would just look at it and just be like, what is wrong with you? Why would you do that? Put a lens hood on, you weirdo. And I'd just be
Yeah.
like, no, it's a look, it's a style. Like, he'd just be like, that's terrible. He's like, that's just awful. So I know what you mean. Like, it's I love that aesthetic. It just letting the glass kind of add its own like element. It's so cool.
Comes back to, again, that's the process. It's literally what we're doing. We're capturing light moving through, however, I have no idea how many pieces of glass are in front of my camera.
Yeah.
And it does a lot of weird things because of the double lens thing. But like, yeah, that's it. Again, it's the process. It's not about, I think I don't know, when photography, and I was taught photography at college, it was all about obviously chemical reaction, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. We talk about it after, but actually what's going on in the camera structure, and this is the process. And again, the cinematography probably just pushes me to silhouette stuff, but I've always just had the attitude, if I shoot into the light, something interesting will happen. And that, I don't know, it's something visually interesting to look at, isn't it? Like, and you say two types of photographers, some are probably cringing at it going, oh my god, he just doesn't know what he's doing. But it's kind of knowing what you're doing and making the stylistic choice of, am I going to technically know how to cut this out, or am I going to technically know how to add this stuff in? And you know, I don't know, I just like, it's light, and we all say it about photography, it's capturing light, and I think playing with it and seeing what it will do is it just interests me. So you know,
it's awesome.
Oh man, so I was hoping that there would be at least a photo in here, kind of like this. This is sort of what I was talking about with that black, dark, I'm gonna empty area. It's, you have a few of these. You have several of these, like, just really interesting. And I didn't do it quite the same way, but I was messing around a little bit with the idea of like a portal or a door or an entryway. You do such a great cinematic exit and entrance. I can feel the way the camera wants to move right now. If this was a motion picture, like just looking at this photo, like I can feel where it's supposed to go next.
Yep.
And I think that's just something that's really interesting. Again, it does have to do with the fact that you think, you know, in a cinematography mindset, but it's like your entrances and exits are so different than if this were like a 4x6 or a 5x7 or something. Like I can feel the motion, and I can feel us with the character, and I can hear the music, and I can like hear the audio engineering, and I can it's like everything is just there. And it's, anytime you've done this, and you've done it like, it's so funny, like with a Lego or a Star Wars figure, or it doesn't matter, like whatever you use, I always get that energy, and I always get that feeling. And it's you nail these where it's just like tunnel, light in a doorway, like whatever the case may be. Like I feel it so hard. Like it's awesome. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But I guess it's one for me. What I would simply say, there's two things that could jump to mind. So one is what you said about kind of entry and exit, and I think this is something I've subconsciously started to do and not really realized. But my girlfriend, who is in no way interested in photography other than taking pictures of things we see on our iPhone, she said it to me one day. It was like, your photographs tell stories, and I'm questioning now where this person is going or what's happening off. And I think it's very much I subconsciously like, where is this going? What's happening? What happens next? What's this is a, you know, it's a moment in time, isn't it? Because obviously, if you play cinematography and you're putting that world into a still shot, you have to be saying this is part of a thing happened, or a thing is going to happen. And I think I get many of my characters are either walking to or away from camera, in shot or out of shot. I think it's just that subtle thing that I don't want it to be about what's in the picture. It's almost what's outside of the picture and what's going next. The other thing I would say is we are literally all children of Spielberg, aren't we? He's the master of blocking, and blocking is that kind of thing, frames within frames within frames. Look at this thing because I want you to look at that thing in a minute. And I think those two things are the two things that jump into my head when you've just said that there. So it's kind of, it was making me smile inside. Like, she literally told me this about 6 months ago when she was like, you tell, they're always going somewhere, and I wonder where they're going, or they've come from somewhere, and where did they come from? But again, I do think, again, we're just programmed in that way. Like, how many people of our generation just literally grown up on spoon-fed Spielberg?
Oh my God. Like, that's what I watched. Like all the time. I mean, that was like I feel like there was a movie every year growing up, like sometimes two. I was just like, what is going on? Like, does this guy sleep? But yeah, it was just like nonstop. And yeah, we did grow up on that. And like, you see it, and you see it in the way that, you know, your images bring you there. Like, you feel like there is something next. Like she said, there's something next, or there was something before, and we're thinking about these two spaces over here, not even as much the image that's right in front of us.
You know, and obviously something like this photo is like, you know, for me, my brain is just like, it's Alien. It's just Alien. It's got nothing to do with Alien at all. It's a little spaceman, but you know, it's Alien walking down the corridor, flashing lights, lens flare, which obviously I like, but it's like, it's Alien. And it's actually inside an exercise foam roller. It's just a torch shining through the back of an exercise foam roller and some aerosol sprayed in to catch the light and make it ping. But
love it.
You know, eat your heart out, Ripley.
I love it.
But you got a reflection anyway, too. That's cool. A reflection. All right.
So it's kind of polished. So it's kind of getting it in there and going with it. So yeah.
This here's another thing that you do periodically is this fantastical kind of, like, you'll have these images that do not feel of this world, don't feel, and not in like a science fiction way. They genuinely feel like they're on another like plane of existence. Like, okay, we're gonna get really weird here. If anybody wants to check out now, but these are definitely, like, we start moving into kind of more of like your psychedelic space periodically, which I think is just really, really interesting. And you've done it with your spacemen, you've done it with other characters too, but I love that these spacemen will sometimes go into a, like, again, not another dimension, but like another area of your mind that is not what we exist in here. Like the last photo, even though it could have, again, Alien, could have been science fiction, whatever, it still felt of what is familiar to us. Like what our scenes look like, what, you know, we're comfortable with. Some of these photos take you to a space that we are not comfortable with. And this is like one of those images where I look at it and I see something, I see a character moving in a direction to a place that not only is it the typical, like, oh, where are they going? But like, I don't even understand where they're going. I don't even understand. Like, I don't know what's after this because I can't even imagine it in my head because we're in such a different plane. So yeah, that just came out of my mouth. So there we go. Now we're getting real weird.
Yeah, but the journey still exists. And I think that's the bit. You can still tell this character's traveling to and from a place. And probably like to just, should we keep rolling with the film kind of connotations? It's the end of 2001, isn't it? It's where things get weird. It's that kind of like, like you're saying, the beginning of 2001, once you get past the smashing the rocks by the monkeys, like all that kind of stuff, then you get to some kind of, this is, you know, clean cut science fiction. You know, it makes sense. It's grounded in enough stuff that we understand what's going on.
Yes.
And then he goes through the portal and then it gets weird.
Yeah. You lose all sense of familiarity. It's gone.
Exactly. Like, that's the thing. We know he's going on a journey. We know things are happening. But like, then it gets into I suppose it gets back to kind of the fine art world that I came from way back when, which is here's a load of stuff. Try and
Mhm.
piece this back together and understand what I was thinking, because it's more
Yes.
about feeling and idea and sense rather than, you know, the definition of you understand this and you understand that, because
Yeah.
so
It's no longer representation. Like it's no longer like an actual. It's more of a Again, it's more of a thought.
Yeah.
It's a space that some people are uncomfortable being in. It's the place where infinity lives and where quantum physics are analyzed. It's a different place.
It's also why I just steal a kind of quantum mechanic type of names for these photos, because it's just like that's the kind of that world and that kind of way of thinking, like this stuff is beyond our comprehension and we're desperately trying to cling to the edge of it. So
yeah, we want to.
Yeah.
We
Can
try.
I ask a return question on this one?
Oh god.
Do you know how I made it? Because it's quite interesting.
I was gonna ask if it was light painting, but it would be real difficult with that.
Did you use some sort of prism of some nature? Did you use like a piece of crystal or anything crazy?
I tried all of those things,
and you couldn't.
My original idea it was light painting, so lots of LEDs in a rainbow pulled underneath. Can I make that happen? Wasn't working. She stood on a PowerPoint presentation.
Yes.
It's just a rainbow on a PowerPoint presentation. I just made one single shot on PowerPoint, different colors going through, cranked up the light on the monitor, and the monitor's LED flat. So this is for me. I work all the time. It's like, I will not do death by PowerPoint. I will not do death by PowerPoint. And now I promote, this is how PowerPoint should be used.
This is what it's supposed to do.
That's what it's supposed to do.
Exactly. This is why it was made.
Yeah.
Oh man.
For all you corporate snobs listening, this is what it was for.
This is what it was really for. You just didn't know it yet.
Yeah.
That is the coolest thing. Again, play, experimentation, letting your brain go, creativity. Like this is what it's all about. Like,
yeah. And what tools do you have to hand as well? Like, that was it. I had an idea. I had a way. I'm going to light paint this underneath. I'm just going to long exposure it, drag the light underneath. It will paint the rainbow. And it was a mess. It was a skewed, blurry mess of nonsense. And I'm like, no, that's not going to work. Okay, what can I do? And yeah, just like, I'll draw a little rainbow in PowerPoint. I will crank up that exposure. I'll put the hardest ND filter on it I can. And let's let the light do the work. And yeah. That's what came from it.
I like that. I love the idea. I like the way that you work, and like you have an idea and you try to come up with a way to make that thing happen. You know, it's less reactive photography and more like proactive photography. You tried a few things. They didn't work, but you were set on this idea. You wanted this to happen. And so you put in the effort to keep trying. I think a lot of people would tend to not. Like once they tried a few things, you kind of just go like, well, maybe my idea is not working. I've done it. I'm guilty of it. I know I've done it. But the satisfaction of accomplishing it when it comes to process, I mean, like, this is a lesson to everyone. Just keep going with it. Just keep going with it. Don't stop. Like, just keep pushing until it starts to make sense, or you come up with an idea that's even better. Like, just keep going. I think that's so important to do when it comes to ideas. And I love when people share like their behind the scenes and stuff like that. And I love like trying things that other people have tried 100%. But there is a real satisfaction, I think, when you come up with something by yourself, like just something that just kind of pops into your head and you have to kind of come up with the solution. Like there is no like solution out there on Reddit or Instagram where you can be like, oh, that's how I do it. Like, you have to just keep playing until it happens.
I think it's that one where, like, the old adage of great artists steal.
Oh
And
yeah.
what you're actually doing is you're just pinching lots of things from lots of places and trying to stick them together in your own way. Like no one
Yes.
makes the whole added. No one makes anything new. No one can create anything unique. All you're
Absolutely.
doing is you're pinching things from other places, doing different stuff. And I think it comes back to that point I was saying where I like to be multidisciplinary because I can. So some ideas like this one, like I tried it, it didn't work. Now it might not be that I tried it, it didn't work, and I fixed it in the moment, or it could be it sits on that back bit of my brain for 6 months while I'm doing some other stuff, and then the thing happens that goes, that's how it works, that's how I do it, and then you go back to it and you rebuild it and you restructure it and you go again. So
Yes.
again, it's kind of cyclical in everything we're talking about. That yeah, ideas come, ideas go, they're always there, and some things you can fix in the moment, and you can have an idea, and 5 seconds later you've got a photograph of it, or something
Mhm.
several years in the making because you haven't what you don't have the technology yet to do it. Like how many
Mhm.
times have you heard that? It's like it's a similar thing. You just don't have the way of building that yet. And
Well, and you said the thing about artist steel and
Mm.
whatnot, and the importance of that. It's an interesting point because I bring this up about how we do this with the taking photos in the style of and blah blah blah, and how
Mm.
there is something really really important about that because I have done things when I was like trying to play around with somebody's style where I did something that went, wait, I was trying to do this. Like or I find a place, like I find a spot that I didn't even realize. Like, I'm just like, oh yeah, I kind of wanted to do this. I had wanted to do something like this like months ago, but I could not figure out how to make it happen. It's important. Like those moments, trying different things and experimenting will eventually get you to the place in the back of your mind that you were trying to work on. So
and you both must have got a lot of that out of this because obviously you're constantly trying to do things in the style of other people, and you're going through that experiment. Like you must have inherited so many things that you've then, in essence, learned through doing that. That now are they might be small, they might be large, but they're a segment of how you take photographs now because you're like that's your light bulb moment. You go, that was the thing I was trying. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to put that in my back pocket, and now
Yeah.
you're growing what you're doing because you're playing like the rest of us do, I guess, or picking that from
100%.
that person and that from that person.
It's like upgrading your toolbox for
Yeah.
So it's perfect. All right.
There we go. There's some straight cinema right there.
I just think it's so unique. I would call it your relationship with light because it's definitely like it's been the peak of every photo because it's almost like throughout your years of doing things, you either hated it, loved it, or moved on from it. So it's very unique in each one. So
Steph is spot on with that. It is that relationship that you have, like you can tell, like your friends, there's something there. You have a connection to it, and I can picture you. Like this sounds, again, I'm not trying to be super weird here. I swear I didn't take anything before this, but it's almost like I can like picture you like talking to light like on a regular basis. Like I like have this ridiculous fantasy going in my head right now of Tom just like having conversations with like lighting, like just like, why would you do that, dude? Like, stop. What do you, no, do
Go
this
there,
thing.
move
Yeah,
that
go
way,
over there,
do
do
that
that
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, no, I'm not going to do it unless you do this thing. Okay, fine. We'll meet in the middle. Like this is like the image I have of you just because of like what Steph said, the relationship that you seem to have with it, with your images, and it changes from image to image. You don't use the same lighting. Yes, you like lens flare. Okay, cool. I see that you like lens flare. It doesn't mean that every single photo looks exactly like the same. It's not the same use of it. It changes periodically. You like certain backlight, yeah, but that's not your only relationship with light. It's beyond that. You have direct lighting. You've used like softer, harder, like it goes all over the place. And again, you have this really just like again, it's like your buddy, and I love that. I love that you guys are just kind of like you and light, just chilling. You guys are friends, living your lives.
It's me and my little crew of LED torches because that's mostly all I use. It's just very, very cheap off of Amazon LED focusable torches, and I've got about 8 of them. And off shot now, I'm probably there with one here and one here and one here and one there, and like you're just trying to get it all there. But yeah, I think that, like we talked about earlier in the chat about the massive camera setup and structure that's there.
Yeah.
It just makes you think about it a bit more, I guess. Like, but it's not even like conscious anymore. It's just subconscious of what can do, what can happen, and also just what can I make the light do? What can I make it do in camera? And I think the lens flares is where my brain went, and where I started. But I think if I break that really down, it's not just, I don't want to just be J.J. Abrams. What I want to do is kind of like what will it do? Why will it do it? And understanding it. By understanding it, in theory, I can break it down and I can reuse it as a later time. So again, I could just, I learned, and I think this is probably not an anamorphic shot. This is probably before I went truly anamorphic. So between the camera and the subject, like literally stuck to the front of the lens, there will be a CD case with scratches down it vertically, which will then split the light out to make it mimic, the cross lens flares, and that kind of thing was there. But it's like you say, that was a real driving force for a long period of time for me, and I would put it on every single picture. And I look back at some pictures now, it's like, again, whoa, you went a bit far with the lens flare. You can't see what's going on. But you just become more subtle about it. You become, and you use it in the right moments, and it's like, I don't know. I'm guessing you guys are watching Kenobi at the moment, and like obviously it's very interesting. He's running around a lot of dark corridors with that blue lightsaber on, and it looks very, very different from when he was in episode 2 or 3, because it's a real friggin' lightsaber nowadays. It's not superimposed on after. And I'm like, wow, it's doing so many cool things with,
oh my god, so many cool things.
Light. But there are many things which I would not pause and go, I want to replicate that shot, because you can't see what's going on in any way, shape, or form, because it's just a massive blue blur. And again, it's just picking that right moment, and that where in that coming from and going to is where's the right one to tell that story going each way. So it's very much about what's the light doing and how's it doing it, and what things can I do to manipulate it. But I'm interested in that. I don't want to hide from it, like you're saying with your dad. He wants to not hide it, but he wants to control it in a very clean way. I'd probably rather control it in a messy way and let it do its thing.
Let it do whatever it's gonna do.
It's like record what it did as well. Like that for me is interesting. I like to record what the light did. That's a big part of, I think, why I photograph things.
It's funny you say the thing about control, though, because it is interesting, like letting it be messy. But I gotta say, one of the things also about your images is the whether it's subconscious or conscious, the amount of control of your texture and backgrounds. When you have stuff like grasses, high grasses, and vines, like at the beginning, you go back and you look through your feed, everything just fits so nicely. The line work is just awesome, and maybe that comes from you as a painter prior. Is you're thinking in that format, even when you move into photography, you're looking at the grass as a brush stroke rather than just grass in the background. And the way that you allow it to fit and flow against the subject is just amazing. It's amazing. And every image, it makes sense. And I'm just looking at it here, and I'm looking at where it falls and the directions that it's moving, and how it works against the lens flare, and how, it's stunning. I think that's really cool. Really thoughtful.
I feel bad now I didn't get any of the painting ones, because we're going to go right into the exploration discovery. We can spend like 3 hours with you, Tom. I just realized.
This is the problem, though. Like, I swear, this is why I think it's best that we don't hyper focus on trying to make it like, okay, we like to do 59 minutes and then roll credits or anything like that, because it's like, I don't know, sometimes you go off the rails, and who cares if somebody doesn't want to listen to the full hour? They can stop and go listen to the last 15 minutes later. Like, whatever. Like, it's conversations, letting conversations go in the direction that they're going to go, is really important. And I think the way that what conversations have become, I think probably partially because of COVID and like what social interactions have become, are kind of just like they're sparse and just, you know, dun, 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 dun. And it's nice, I think, you know, if it goes on for a bazillion hours, it's like, oh well, whatever. Like,
and it's also in this type of conversation as well. Like, again, like, you know, I wear one of these things. I have one. I wear it every day because I have 8 hours of these things every day, and they're scheduled. So one happens at 9 o'clock, one happens at 10 o'clock, and you've got that thing there where actually it's and everyone's got to say their piece, and you've got to come to a conclusion by the end. So do you really kind of really dig deep into stuff? Do you have that kind of chew the fat conversation, spitballing ideas type of stuff? So it's actually really refreshing, considering I do this every day, to just have this free form. Let's go for it. What? Did anyone know that we were going to talk about this stuff when we started it? I not a clue.
It's interesting. This is super off the rails, Steph. I'm so sorry. This is super off the rails. But like, it reminded me, Tom just said something. I had read this whole thing about it was an article, I think it was literally called like Water Cooler Talk. And they were talking about companies post COVID and what has happened since so many jobs went remote. And what we're talking about with the idea of like a free form conversation, like a loose conversation where there is no structure, where there's no, you know, okay, everybody's watching their watches. They're all sitting there at a computer talking to a Zoom. Cause I have to talk in Zoom meetings. Like, I know what that's like. You're just sitting there like, okay, we have 30 minutes. Okay, go. We've gotten away from a time where ideas would happen sometimes naturally. And they were like, again, they were referring to it as like water cooler talk, like two people step away from their desk and they sit there and ask, oh, how are the kids, blah, blah, blah. But then an actual work conversation turns into something. And then all of a sudden this person now has an idea they bring back to their desk. This person goes back to their desk. They're stewing on it for like an hour. They calls up Jenny and goes, can you come back over to my desk for a second? Remember we were talking about blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden you've got another idea and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's less and less of that. And it's, they've seen it in like corporations when it comes to like problem solving and stuff like that. Problem solving has gotten like stalled periodically because it's you have 30 minutes to solve the problem. You don't have the whole day to solve the problem. You literally have 30 minutes to solve the problem. And a lot of times you get to the end of that 30 minutes and you haven't solved the problem. And then everybody just goes on their way and does their thing.
So you book in 30 minutes next week and you try and solve it again.
You try to solve it again. Exactly. And it's a cyclical and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So, so there's the importance of conversation. Go talk to people, everyone. There. All right. Sorry.
It's just funny. I just switched from a in-person to a remote job.
Yeah.
I just got into Teams this week too, and I had never used it before, and it's quite different than being able to walk out my door and talk to my staff. So interesting.
Yeah. I do it with mine, or I try to. Like we're really struggling at the moment because we've got so many deadlines. But what we have done over the past 2 years of this project that we're working on is very much like, I'm going to plug in an hour, and I'm not even going to tell you what you're talking about. What's your ideas today, guys? And then just let it roll and let it flow, and just give them that time. And I think that's the way you have to do it. You have to be kind of like, and it freaks people out to begin with.
Oh yeah.
But eventually, because again, they're programmed to know I sit and I wait and I talk and I get my moment to talk. And but it's very, very important. Like we have to find new ways to get those kinds of conversations back. And it's not easy. And no one's got the answers, but we've got to find a way to do it in this world. And I guess this kind of conversation, like honestly, for anyone watching this, I had no clue what I was talking about when I joined up. Like we've just gone with whatever, and we've got quite deep on quite a few things there. So just shows you it can go in any direction.
Yeah, and it's healthy. It's a healthy thing.
All right, we're ready for my photo. I'm glad that I realized that your setup is 2 lenses now, because I could not figure out how to pull back with the 50 millimeter on this photo. So we're gonna roll with it because I was trying to use the colors and light. And Scott knows this morning because it took me all week. I set it up. I was like, I can't figure out how he gets it to go that far. And I was like pull all the way back because I'm an up close photographer. I like to be in the moment, like get the stuff into like a regular 12th scale.
Yeah.
But I also
get real close. This was like I love that you even pulled back this far because you're such an up close. You're like the exact opposite of Tom, like in every way. You are in there, like it is all about that subject, and like yeah, it's weird to pull back that far. Like it wasn't as big a stretch for me because I don't even shoot with a macro. Like I've never pulled a macro out. So Steph, I am blown away. Look at you pulling back.
That and just trying to get it kind of darker. I went back towards your earlier stuff too, because I already knew that I wasn't gonna be able to go outside being at home remote trying to be new. So I wasn't gonna be able to get the outdoor, and I don't have any Star Wars like figures right now. So it's like I can't do the whole Obi-Wan thing. But I've been trying to think about a way to really get light and water for this Fantasia figure. And I might reshoot them back outside, but for right now I was like, I need to have like the color and just like the lens flares I think would work well with this. But now that I know, I'm gonna try the scratch CD thing, I think, outside, and it might
Do it.
be really cool.
Yeah, so what did I use? I'm trying to think what I used now. They literally a fork. Use a fork because you will get, and you just need to, like, even if you tape 2 or 3 together and then just drag them all as one. Don't scratch randomly, because the important thing is that you need the scratches need to go perfectly vertically so that the light will cut straight across. So if your lines wiggle and wobble, then the lens flare will wiggle and wobble. So you need to get it perfectly. So I'm pretty sure. No, what I did, I bought sandpaper.
Ooh.
That's what I did. I got really, really fine sandpaper. I wrapped it around, obviously, a piece of Lego, because that was to hand, and then dragged it as tightly as I could across an old CD case. And then I just blue tack that to the front of the lens, and that does the job. But yeah, it's like within what cents, depending on what part of the world you're in, you've got lens flares if you want it that way.
So great.
Really simple to do. But yeah, no, I love the like you've got so many elements going on with the light and the water and the background. That, like, I think another thing that I've been really focused on is depth. Like what happens, and obviously in cinema there is depth. There's depth of things. I think it's very comfortable and easy, isn't it? As someone who is using a macro lens, especially, I can just blur out the background and I'm great. I can just go for bokeh and I'm done. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And I've really, really tried to push myself to not. And I'm really excited by all the things that you've got going on here, Steph, in the depth and the water and all that kind of stuff, because that could be lost so easily. But it's the key point. It's not necessarily like the story you're telling is Mickey's making that stuff do things, and that's where the action and the excitement is. So
there's 2 things I'm looking like that I just started thinking about and I couldn't stop thinking about. Like, well, there's one thing that I really can't stop thinking about, and then there's one thing I love the backlight. I love how he's surrounded, and you've got this backlight on Mickey. You can still tell it's Mickey, like you still see his face and everything, but you've got this really powerful light coming from behind him. And then part 2 of that was, I was like, what? Why do I keep looking at this and like thinking about it so much? And if you've ever watched the original Fantasia, this feels like the opening and the interludes where you see the orchestra. Like it almost has the same kind of like rear lighting effects that you get when you're looking at the conductor and the orchestra and they show the instruments and stuff like this, because they get backlit and there's like different colored lights and like strong light here and then soft light here, and it goes back and forth depending on what they're playing, and then it'll go into the animated part and then it'll go back once in a while, and like it just all of a sudden felt like that. It doesn't feel it feels like a hybrid of the animated part where he's the sorcerer Mickey is doing his thing, but it's like you mashed the 2 concepts of Fantasia together. You have this full, like, and again, Tom's interest in cinematography, like I just love that you captured both of those cinematic forms that are happening in the movie Fantasia. You're getting the in between moments with the orchestra as if you're looking at the conductor right now being backlit, but you're also getting the famous animated section of it. So I think that's why I'm just like a little bit in awe right now. I love it.
It's just so much going on in the picture, and I don't mean that in a bad way. There's just so many things, and like we were talking about before with the picture, where does it come from, where's it going? So it's not necessarily, you've got the light coming in from the side, so you're immediately questioning, okay, what's off camera, what's causing that to happen? But it's also about, because it's a moment with like water and elements, and the water has jumped in the air, you're like, where does it come from physically, as in not off camera, on camera, but like what did it look like a second ago, what's it going to look like in a minute? Like that moment that you've caught, obviously. And that's like kind of for me what interested me, if we talk about the spin jitsu, it's about capturing it for real, and that's really kind of like, it's just exciting because it's capturing a thing that I know is carrying on for longer, and now my imagination gets to play in that space of where is it going and what's it doing, and that's what good art does, and it makes you think about more things and lets you go further. So yeah, I love this. I do, like so many things, the silhouette stuff, I say. The action in water, it's awesome, and good shout for pulling back.
I tried. I did move forward, and then I was like, no, I gotta do this the right way. I'm actually laughed because of the bokeh thing. I noticed that you don't have it happening at all, so I tried really hard to do it that way too.
So it's like sometimes I do, and I love it because, again, it's a really important thing about anamorphic, that the bokeh will go oval, not round, because of the compression and the stretch. But again, like, you watch a movie, not everything is blurred out in the background. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. And when I first get the lens, like, oh, this looks pretty, I can do this with this and this and this and then you feel like, no, that's not what this is about. Use it where appropriate. So sometimes it's there, just not very often. And as I say, I'm also challenging to go, how can I think you said it about the dinosaur shot, Scott, how can I compose through the picture? Not just have one plane and have a nice backdrop to it. What am I composing? How are you, again, Spielberg, how are you blocking, how are you making the depths of the image work? So stunning work, Steph.
Thank you. I am going to try it with the CD though, so I'll have to tag you when I get it done.
Yeah, no worries, give it a go.
Ready for Scott's.
Tried to go with the cinematic look, tried to let the light do whatever it wanted to do. And from that point on, I was just having a lot of fun. And I was so far away from him because I was trying to kind of get that sort of cinema feel. I was shooting with like a 200 millimeter. Because obviously I do not have an anamorphic lens, for the record, if anybody was wondering. It's not something I own. And so I I was so far from him. I was just like laying in the dirt, and he kept, like you said, he kept blowing over, and I tried to put some paper clip behind him to hold him up and stuff, but he still kept falling over. But it was fun. I had a really good time thinking in a more cinema-esque format, because I have not done that at all. It is not, even, I love movies, I love film, all film. I love movies so much, and it's just funny to me. I never thought in like a more of a film format. I actually did set the grid on my camera into like 2.39 to 1 or what, just to try to do the cinema feel, so that I would think in that way. Like, I knew I wasn't going, if I was shooting in 4:6, I could have done it, but I don't think I would have been seeing the bigger picture. And it was really interesting because even when I uploaded my raw files, like, because then it opened back up to 4:6, I'm like, wow, I have a lot of extra space. And then I was like, no, I didn't. I was trying to think in that way. So that was a big help, trying to make sure that I kind of focused on that. But yeah, it was really fun. It was fun, really, like thinking about a scene, or like where is this going? Why is this happening? What happened before this? And also trying to, imagine if the camera was moving. I kept trying to do that too. Like when I was shooting all 3 of my photos, I tried to think of it as a screen grab from a moving camera. So like when I was shooting this, I was like thinking to myself, like, okay, where's the camera coming from? Where is it going? Is it backing up? Are we coming in closer? Like, where is this moving? Is this a cut to a new scene from an old? Like I was trying to think in this way because I don't typically, and so it was like, all right, okay. So in this scene, this camera is coming in from here, but then there's a second camera that comes over. It was fun. It was really fun, Tom. I can't even begin to tell you what a blast it was to try to kind of think a little outside the norm for me. So
it really feels like I'm looking at it now, and obviously we saw it because you shared it on Instagram a little while ago. But like it is about that kind of like you can feel him moving through the space. Obviously, like again, you've got the composition where you've got him on the right, you've got the landscape on the left. So you've got that space, and that negative space is engaged there. I love how the light bleeds through from the back. So again, it gives that depth of, I suppose that's another thing that light does, doesn't it? What is it? Well, it's the sun. That if you're talking about your depth, like that's the thing is farthest away from everything, but it's still the depth, and it's traveling through the image. And I think you're doing something here, which like I found I do quite a lot. So obviously it's very rare I will do action shots.
Yeah.
It's very rare that my figures will be actually fighting, considering the second word in the title for most of them is war. And actually there's like again that narrative, there's a melancholy here. Is he about to do something? Has he just done something? We get, Star Wars is the prime example of it. It's Saturday morning television. It's all the excitement, none of the melancholy, and it's quite nice to juxtapose. Like, has he just slaughtered a load of battle droids?
Yeah, exactly.
About to go and do that. Has he saved someone? Has he not saved someone? What's going through?
Yeah,
because he's clearly having this quiet moment before, and I think you've captured that beautifully, which is something that I'm always trying to play with. But yeah, I say the depth of the image, the things coming through it, your choices are where you put the light is brilliant because it does pull through that little bit of sky. Like a lot of people would know, but like that little bit again, it just gives that, okay, he's walking through a Beggar's Canyon-esque type thing.
Yeah.
So the depth there is brilliant. And there's enough, like, yeah, you've got a field of focus, but like, there's enough there going through it that you can tell the story all the way through, because you're assuming he's been walking for quite a while by the looks of it.
Yeah.
It's what it feels like to me. And like you say, where has that camera been tracking him to or from? So no, I love it. I genuinely do. And I think I said to you on Instagram at the time, the light's brilliant because it tells so much more of that story of, that physical space and what's happening. Yeah. And that's what I love about that. Let's say that lens flare type scenario is like, it's telling you what's physically happening in that environment. So stunning work, man.
Thank you. It was fun. It was really, really fun. Absolutely blessed.
Lying in the dirt.
Lying in the dirt. I love it. I love lying in the dirt. It's like one of my favorite things. One of my favorite things.
All right, Scott,
I hate it. I'm just gonna throw it out. I do it all the time, and I hate being dirty. I would literally say if I got dirt on my hands as a child, I would literally run to my parents and go, clean it off, clean it off, clean it off.
Oh, man.
So yeah, but
I climbed into the water for a few photo shoots, like for this last season, and I was so pleased. I wish I had a photo. I think I sent Steph a photo of my Tevas that I was wearing, literally caked, like completely mud, like top to bottom. I had mud up to like halfway up my calf. It was disgusting, but like I climbed in. Like I love doing that stuff. It's so ridiculous. It's like I can't explain it. I'm so ridiculous. I don't know what's wrong with me.
It's fun. I'm always have to like take my shoes off, and my boyfriend's always like, "No, leave the forest outside." Please.
Yeah, no, don't bring it in. Don't bring it in, please.
Yeah. All right, Scott, you ready to hold your breath?
I am ready because I haven't seen it yet, so I'm excited. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
So I took this photo last weekend. Literally, it was the last thing, and obviously when I started playing around with the idea of exploration and discovery, I thought I have to mention it. So I was on the Toy Photographers podcast, as you say, kind of earlier in the year, and the thing I said to Shelley, she said, "What are you doing for next year?" Because it was right at the turn of the year that we did the podcast, and when we recorded together, she's like, it's cheesy, but like what's the New Year's resolution you type? But
Yeah.
and like it's getting out there, it's getting those grand vistas in, it's going in, exploring places. So this is, not far from where I live, but it's a reasonable place. And my girlfriend and I had gone on a weekend away in the mountains, and there's a waterfall in South Wales. And I spent I promised her it would be half an hour. It was 50 minutes, but she said I basically add 50% onto anything you tell me you're going to do anyway. I was close. But giant waterfall, dropping down into this massive pool. Loads of crazy kids are swimming around in their 20s because it seems like or attempting to, and they get knee deep and then they run away because it's too cold. It's like, well, what did you expect?
Yeah.
It's outside.
You're
You live
outside.
in England.
Yeah.
It's not warm in this
It's
part.
not a hot tub. Like, come on.
Yeah. But like I spent so long just walking around, walking behind the waterfall, walking under it, walking over down to the stream. And I think that's a big exploration piece and a discovery piece, just absorbing a space and what can you find and what angle can you get. So obviously in this one, I'm just below and to the left of where the waterfall hits. So the waterfall is hitting the pool behind her. And yeah, this was the shot. It was a slightly different shot to begin with, but again, it was just playing around and where we were going. So I think I had to say it that, yeah, I promised Shelley I would do more of this. And then you guys have kind of basically gone, what you doing this way? Well, what's this kind of thing? This is the theme. And I'm like, hang on a minute.
All right.
This worked well.
Connect the dots.
So yeah, it's very much so. And I've got to say, just before we go any further, obviously it's a Black Series Ahsoka, but Scotticus Customs at Scotticus Customs is where I get the soft goods.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so good.
I was going to ask about the robe because I need an Ahsoka robe, so I probably need a few.
I've got Ahsoka robe, and she's also got Ahsoka trousers. So none of that wonky knee joint malarkey. She's got soft good trousers on there just to make an extra step. So
it's beautiful.
The work that guy does, yeah. I've got a lot of pieces from him just to take Black Series or figure arts or everything. Just exactly like light coming through fabric's wonderful. Everything's wired so I can do what I want with it. But yeah, just got to say, this picture isn't that without those bits, just to give that sense of motion and flow with her.
Big time. I have to say, like, I love that haze of the waterfall so much. The light and the waterfall's interaction and the juxtaposition between the softness of the light against the waterfall versus the hardness of the light against the reflecting rocks it gives me goosebumps. Like, I love this. I love the super dark bottom left corner. I love the beautifully vibrant green top right corner. Her positioning, I mean, where that rock fall, like just the angle bringing you, again, thinking about that motion of the camera, like I can feel us panning to her. Like I can feel us coming into the scene again. We can imagine what happened before, what's coming later, that's, to be figured out in our own brains, but like you can just feel the camera panning in. You can just see, like, I can imagine like the director, I can imagine like the head cinematography team just sitting there saying, okay, they've got like their thing and they're like, okay, we're going to come in from here, we're going to do this, or we're going to pull up, okay, all right, we're good, we know what we're going to do, okay, shoot. Like it feels you just feel that energy off of it. Every little spot of green is just purposeful and perfect. And yeah, those hard reflections on the hard rocks and that soft background. Like, again, there's some serious storytelling there, and yeah, her pose and with the soft goods. I mean, good God, like I just so amazing. It takes it to that next level. Like you said, it's like, yeah, they're still great. They're great figures. There's nothing wrong with them. Like I don't really have a ton of soft goods for anything, but like, man, you throw that cape or a robe or something that has flow to it. And especially when you're thinking as far as like cinematography goes, like, because you're somebody who doesn't, like you said, you don't shoot a lot of like action and aggressive posing and like over the top, like comic book posing or anything like that. Your posing is very subtle, and fabric can enhance the subtlety to like, it can take it from here to here. It's just, it'll help that character out a little bit, because I like subtle posing too. I tend to, be very into subtle posing, but sometimes I can get a little frustrated because of the fact that the fabric doesn't move and it's locked into place. It can almost feel too subtle, and it can almost feel too like flat. And I think she's just, again, I'm going to put this in quotes, she's just standing there, but that motion of her cape and like her robe and stuff, it feels like a scene. It feels bigger.
Yeah, but it's telling a story about the space,
Mm-hmm.
because the fabric is moving. There's a simple like, why do they put them in cloaks and robes and things of that nature? Because it flows and it moves and it gives. And so, like, yeah, she is standing there, but like, it's that thing, isn't it? Like, I think, if you look at I think a big influence on what I'm doing at the moment, I can pinpoint it back to, it's literally the first poster for The Mandalorian. And it's just him walking through the desert, but there's enough of that robe kicking around behind him that it's like, it's a Western. It's just rolling across. It's just giving that little bit of dynamism to the space and the scene. And like, if you look at Westerns, and obviously Westerns influence a lot of what we look at, are samurai movies, because if we all say Star Wars, that's where it's coming from. There are these kind of harsh landscapes that these individual people are suffering through and walking through, and you have to tell the story of that landscape to also kind of juxtapose against the figure, or even tell the story of the figure. What are they enduring? And like you say, if you've got kind of hard shell plastics and stuff like that mimicking a fabric, it can work in certain scenarios. But when you get to something like this, like, all I had to do, because she's got a wire down her back and a wire down each side of her, like, I can push both of the chest pieces of her robe under her armpits and pull the other bit out the back, but it just gives that little bit that takes it to the next level. Now her trousers feel all the more authentic, because boy, she fell over a lot. She now has actual mud in her trousers and in her robe, because it was pretty windy and there was a waterfall. There was a lot of elements kicking around, and she was not standing still for very long. So, but now, like that'll be part of it. And again, it'll feel that kind of worn in, that kind of, I guess it's, it's not necessarily why, but like, that's the biggest difference. I was listening to the other day, Star Wars and Star Trek, almost exactly the same thing. One's a utopia, one's a dystopia. Like, that's the difference. And I think that's a big thing about Star Wars, which that everyone says it's a field in. They even say it in Lucasfilm. It's a field. It's a lived-in environment. We feel that it's lived in. And I think like soft goods really do that. And it's one thing I kind of started to purchase a little bit more of and find solutions for. And a Paul Atreides figure from McFarlane's Dune line. It's very static. You steal one of these robes, stick it on it, boom, you're in the desert, you're feeling the desert, it's moving with you, all that kind of stuff. So
absolutely, makes a lot of sense.
Do you have like your little torches up there too, or is that all just from the light naturally coming down?
All of that was natural. It was in and out with the clouds on the day, and I think all of that was just, it shone through. It caught, like Scott's saying, it caught the haze in the background, and I tried to push the field of focus quite far back, so you can tell what's going on in the background, but almost like the waterfall gave it a bokeh-esque effect in the background. And like you say, happy accident for more than anything, but the contrast of that sharpness in the foreground. And it wasn't really about the rocks, especially it was about her, but obviously those rocks then kind of become part of her subject and her plane, but she's kind of haloed by that water. And obviously that, there's about 20 of these shots, because it's a waterfall, it's doing different things at every single second. So click 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 click, different speeds. I really struggle with water. I know obviously a lot of landscape photographers will go super long and have it silky smooth. and it just doesn't look real to me. So this was trying to find a balance. Does it look like it's like you had in your picture, Steph? It was a moment, and you're capturing that moment, and it's that balance of capturing moments and movement, isn't it? And I hope I got it in this one, in the sense of you can tell it's a waterfall.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
But it gave that, like you said, Scott, that haziness and that contrast to what was going on in the foreground.
Yeah.
I think you guys said earlier, though, this does make me feel very Spielbergy. It's very Jurassic Park. It's so, I can feel like it's in my backyard because it's very pretty. So, all right. I think there's one more Obi-Wan shot for the ending here.
There it is. Oh God, absolutely beautiful. And then again, those soft goods, I'm telling you, they make a difference. Make a difference.
So yeah, same guy again. Scott August Customs on that one. So I think, that was an Obi-Wan robe. I think I've got one for Obi-Wan and I've got one for Luke, because Luke doesn't have sleeves on his robe for whatever reason.
Does he have like an Etsy page or anything, or does he just sell right through Instagram or something?
No, he's got a website.
So website? Okay.
You search for Scotticus Customs, double T in the middle of that. So SCOTTCUS Customs. Punch that into Google or any other search engine that may still exist. You'll find him. But yeah, so this was that. I can't remember who I got the head from. So this is the Archive Wave Obi-Wan from episode 3. And if anyone has seen that figure, the head is about 50% too small for the body. It's horrific.
It's so tiny. What happened? I don't.
So this different head, but I've custom painted that then. So something else I've got into recently, more heads and things and stuff. I haven't got to the point where I'm willing to custom paint my import figures yet from Japan.
Yeah.
They cost a bit too much. But yeah, Marvel Legends or a Black Series that I've spent $20 on. I'm willing to paint that over. So, but normally there's good sculpts under there. There's just terrible paint
application. Exactly.
And then this was a picture I took on holiday. I was in Cyprus, and I'm actually on the coast. But because Cyprus in the middle of the Mediterranean Ocean is an island, obviously at one point it was a volcano, no longer, but you've got all this kind of stuff, and it's the same place. I'm literally, if you turn around, the photo you showed of Boba Fett is my latest shot right at the beginning, Steph.
That's awesome.
It's exactly the same location.
That's actually kind of fun.
Spun literally about 270 degrees, and I'm shooting in a different angle. But yeah, this was just behind the mountains, should we call them, in the background is literally the sea. It just drops off and it's the sea, but the scale just worked perfectly for all these figures to wander through and act like canyons and mountain ranges and stuff. And again, like, I think it was the trailer, isn't it, where obviously we know more about it now, but like, he's a broken man, and like the fight is done. And that's why I titled this one, the fight is done. It's like he's looking at his lightsaber. What did I achieve? What did I do? All that kind of stuff. It's like, again, that moment between the wars. There's quiet character moments, but just chasing the light. This was like, what can I do while I've still got a little bit of sunlight and a little bit of orange?
Well, and that's awesome, because you've got that beautiful little highlight just along the top. I love photos like that. My sister actually has a photo like that from when she was out west in the US. It's like, I love little moments like that. I took a photo actually out west that was one of those moments, and again, not toy related at all, but it was just like a fun little highlight, like just the sun, just playing with the sun a little bit, and there's just something there. It's something, again, that relationship with light. It's like you're playing a game. There's your little catch light back there just for the top of the mountain, and then the rest of the photo does the rest of the work. It's just beautiful.
It's one of those where I think we've shown a few pictures, and I've posted a few more recently, and you'll see them all. Obviously I went on this holiday knowing it's dusty and deserty, and there's a series about a certain Obi-Wan Kenobi coming. Like, I've got to get this at the right time. It's all lining up. Get this figure, get it done. But I think you'll see there's a few shots of Boba, both old and new. There's pictures of Kenobi. There's some pictures of stormtroopers I've taken as minifigs recently. And I think I probably took them all in about an hour, hour and a half. So when we're talking about kind of discovery and exploration, I think one thing I would say is about, talking about speed and process and things. I was in that area for about 3 hours in the lead up to, coming up to golden hour. And then I took about 6 shots within about 30 minutes of each other, because in theory, I just kind of roughly planned out what each one was going to be.
Yeah.
And then you've got the buzz and you're running around like a headless chicken, because it's like, it's going.
It's
Right,
go time.
I can shoot into the sun because I can see the sun. This one, I can't see the sun. It's dropped below the horizon, but it's catching the stuff about right quick and working your way around. So again, I'm talking that kind of very literal terms, but explore the space you're in. My girlfriend says it to me all the time as we're walking along. It's like, you're looking at photographs again, aren't you? Because you're just looking at the environment you're walking through in a slightly different way. Could I do that? That little vignette might work down there. And like, I'm literally looking at a tree stump, and she's like, come on, we need to keep moving. And I'm like, what's over there, or what's over that way? Or but yeah, that exploration of explore the space, because scale works in wonderful ways, and it can be exciting different things, I think, is kind of where I went with that picture.
Agreed. Oh my gosh, Tom, thank you so much for chatting with us. Like, it truly was a pleasure getting to talk to you. Like I said, it was nice. Like I think for Steph and I, just to talk to somebody that we haven't really talked to a whole lot beforehand, either of us, and getting some insight into what makes you tick, what makes you do the things you do. It's really cool. I love your work. Anybody who has not seen Tom's page should look at it. His handle's right there. And is there anywhere else that, like, again, we asked this at the end, some people are doing this for bigger reasons. Some people just take photos, but do you have like a website or anything like that?
Yep. Yeah, so I've got a website. It's usually fairly out of date, because obviously when do you get the time to manage that kind of thing? But you said handle. I would please ask anyone who wants to look at anyone's photographs, if they are on Flickr, go and find them on Flickr and look at those pictures in a bigger, better way. And that's the biggest thing I would say. It's the same handle I use for everything. The other thing is I do put these up for sale. There are prints on my website, but you can just find me at Tom Milton. Being in the UK, it's tommilton.co.uk. So if people are interested in that way, but I've taken the pictures, they're there. That's more about that kind of thing. It's not necessarily this is the be all and end all, but again, I think probably just try and find things from people as big as possible, because Instagram's a great tool to get stuff out there. But like we talked about at the beginning, I clearly rebel against that, in that structure and that scale and that kind of stuff. But, appreciate photos for all their details and their nuances and all the bits and pieces. And, I'm quite happy to pay the pro price on Flickr, because I really appreciate that kind of stuff. But, and it's not just because I won their competition that I'm saying that they're great. I'm just throwing out.
I used to use Flickr too. I honestly have considered going back into Flickr again. I used Flickr years ago. I'm talking like over a decade ago, before I even started, like, before I was trying to be like a professional photographer, before anything like that, before I had a professional website, I used Flickr kind of as a portfolio. I loved Flickr. I still love it. I just, like I said, got away from it and started, when I got back into photography, started using Instagram. But like, I still think about like Flickr. I loved Flickr. I loved the ability, like, people could reshare Flickr through other websites. Like, they could drop it into, like, I don't know if this is still a thing. I'm sorry if I sound old here, but Tumblr, I know that was a thing back in the day. But people could like share a link through there. They could share it onto Facebook. They could share. So it was like, even just the accessibility for other sites, whereas Instagram is just pretty much just Instagram, Facebook, and that's like the combo. So I'm all about Flickr. Maybe it's time. Maybe I'm gonna open my Flickr again.
Just bigger pictures, I think, for everyone. Like, you can appreciate so much more about, and obviously, I know I'm a touch biased on this, because like you were saying, Scott, like, I pull back so much, like, who's in this picture?
I know, especially on Instagram.
And obviously on Instagram, like, there's a lot of like I'm asking people to pinch and zoom and get in there and figure out what's going on, and it's difficult. But I think you have to be. Again, Shelley asked me this when we were chatting, like, why did you do what you do this way? Because it's clearly against everything that you're using as a medium. Like, because this is what makes me tick and what interests me, and I don't think I should compromise that for anything else. So yeah, I would say whether it's my art or anyone else's art, try and see it, you know, in the flesh, as big as possible, whatever the case may be. You know, we can absorb art in so many ways, and it's fun to do, isn't it? So
absolutely, it is. Absolutely.
All right. Well, I just wanted to say that thank you, and I learned a lot. So I was like listening and taking notes, and I'm probably going to steal a couple ideas. So excited.
All good artists steal. We covered that.
We covered it. It's true.
It's going to be the hashtag for this episode.
Cool. And again, thanks for inviting me to the party.
Oh, thank you.
Well, y'all, thank you for listening to another wonderful episode of the combined SBN F-Stop Rebel podcast. Truly a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed everything. Remember, please do not grow up. It's a waste of time. I am Scott, F-Stop Rebel, and there's obviously Steph.
Yep, I'm still here, and you can find me at Slag My Thrilla or the SBN. You'll see all the credits on the end, but I always want to say, just guys, stay awesome and keep it up.